Hi, welcome to my channel. So happy to be here again with you guys. Today we're going to paint this forest, the Starry Night forest that I put to you a couple days ago in Instagram, and everybody told me that you want to see the process and the tutorial. So we start with this size. It's 5 by 7 inch, and I'm going to start, you know that I like to put almost all the materials that I'm going to use here. So I use this palette. When you asked me and you sent me a message where I bought this one, is from Candance, and I'm going to let you the link of where I buy that palette. The colors that we're going to use today, I use tons of colors and blues. The most often colors that I use for the blues is the indigo from White Nights, that I obsessed with that color. Lunar blue from Daniel Smith, the ultramarine deep, and the Payne's Grade from Winsor & Newton. And for the greens, we're going to use the Bohemian Green from Quar. We're going to use a lot too the Genuine Appetite from Daniel Smith, Under the Sea Green, Daniel Smith, Serpentine Genuine from Daniel Smith too. Daniel Smith have amazing grains. For the brushes, we're going to use this one for the background, for the sky. This is the Silver Velvet brush number 8. I have this brush from 4 years ago and I use all the time. From this brown too, I like to use for the details the number 2, the Silver Velvet number 2. That one is like for the branches. And for some details, this one is called a Perla number 2. We're going to start with the drawing, with the sketch. So we're going to use this compass to make the moon, this one, and we have to do the shapes, form shapes around the painting. We're going to start making this moon, and then we can know how to fit the uniform shapes around this moon, to have like idea how this going to looks, right? Start drawing the uniform shapes that going to be the branches in the corners, so like that we have like idea how going to fit everything in our painting. It's going to be like a view from the floor. If you are in forest and you are laid down watching up to the sky and you see the moon, you know, it's a nice view and like a nice painting to have, thinking that you are watching the moon lay down in the middle of the forest. When we have our sketch done, we start with sky. It's easy. I always like to do the sky first. Almost all the time I do the sky first. I feel that it's easy to do it in this way in my paintings. Sometimes I leave the sky for the end in my reels. You can see the big difference. I like to make the big difference with the sky and without the sky in the painting, right? But you want to make in the easy way. For me, start with the sky is important. Remember, don't let when you are making the background, don't let the edge dry. Always keep both edge that you are working in both sides very wet. Put a lot of water. That's why we are using 100% cotton paper that holds a lot of water. You can see that a lot of you ask me why I don't tape my paper, but this is small paper, you don't have to tape. And sometimes I turn around the paper, I need to turn around the paper, that's why I don't tape. It's my way to paint. For another people it's easy if you tape the painting. This is my way and this is how it works for me, and that's why I teach you in my way. Tons of watercolor artists, they tape the painting, and for days easy do it in this way. Of course, I'm working in a big format. It's important to do it right, but how we are do it like 5 by 7 inches is okay if you don't do it. For me, is the easy way to work with my painting, and is how I like to do it. I like to mix in the paper the watercolors. I use my palettes, yes, of course, for details, but when I'm doing skies and I'm doing colors for the trees, I like to mix in the same paper the watercolors. Is something that I like to do, and I love how it looks in the paintings. I mix in the sky some ultramarine blue, indigo, Payne's gray, those colors for the sky. I love how they look together. Sometimes I use some violets, but for today I want to do just this, like a cool tones, go with the blues and the greens. After we let the sky dry, we start with the branches and with the trees. Remember, if you don't watch yet my video where I teach you how I paint my watercolor trees, go ahead and watch that video. I explain really deep how I paint the trees, how I like to mix the colors to do these trees, like in a different tones. It's good idea mix in the same paper 2 different watercolors to get a different shade between each other and make like this contrast. Go and watch that video. Is my first video that I upload here, my first tutorial. That was like 1 month or 2 months ago. And here I can explain you a little bit. I like to paint with a lot of pigment, the edge of the shapes. And like I told you, when you don't have a lot of greens, you can mix colors to make a different in each tree. Here I'm using some of the colors that I'm going to use today. Is the Chromium Oxide from White Nights, green from White Nights. The name is just green. I love that color from White Nights. The Genuine Appetitive from Daniel Smith, Green Gray. That one, Green Gray, is from Schminke, if I'm not wrong. Under the Sea Green from Daniel Smith. Dusk Yellow from Da Vinci. I'm using to Prussian Green, Daniel Smith. Like I told you, Daniel Smith have beautiful greens. They make the best greens. I love the greens from that brand. Jaded Genuine from Daniel Smith too. You know that my English not is great, but I do my best to pronounce these names in English. Shadow Green from Daniel Smith too. You don't have I know that these colors are very expensive to have all these colors, and more if you are I'm from Colombia, so if you are in Latin America, to buy these colors is very expensive. So for you guys, I really recommend to you do mixing colors. You can get some of these shades, and you know that I just have the idea that I'm going to make a video for you mixing and creating greens, mixing colors that is easy to find for you there. I know that pay for like $30 or $20 per 1 tube of watercolor in our countries is something that that is a lot of money, and it's difficult to find the money to buy all these watercolors there. I know it because I live there, and I really know that if I'm living right now in Colombia, I can have all the supplies and all the things that I have right now, because there to be an artist is hard. It's really hard, and I talk about my experience, my personal experience. We have the time here. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me. I studied design in Argentina when I have like 22 years old. That was like 13 years ago, something like that. When I be back to Colombia to work in design, it was really hard for me to find a job. It was like 1 year or more to find a job that I can work, and I find a job for a friend that helped me to get a job in a school working like an art teacher. But you know, it's hard to live there. The income for teachers is really low, and it's hard to follow your dreams where you don't have the opportunities like here in Chicago, that I think is amazing. People really appreciate artists and love artists and support small business. And you can see when I go to our fairs, you can see how the people, how much they love the effort that takes to you do all your job. And it's something beautiful for artists came to a city like Chicago, where you find so much support from everybody. But yes, so that's why I'm going to make this video where for the people that doesn't have the opportunity to buy all these watercolors with colors that you can find easily there, and it's not too expensive, like mix it and do these different shades. Let's continue with the painting. I just went, my mind went back to my life that I'm going to tell you in the future more about me. But yes, so here, like you can see, I'm painting the trees, but I leave one in the middle while they dry. So like this, they can dry, and then when I paint the next one, the color doesn't blend with another color. And we're going to finish this part, and then we start with the details. Now we start with the details and the textures in the trees, and that is my favorite part in the paintings when I'm doing the details. So something that you can do here, like I told you, the watercolor palette, when I most use the watercolor palette is when I'm making the details, because I have to mix my colors, and I like to mix the colors there, not in the painting, because I need a specific color. I want to get specific, a specific color for each tree. So here we need a dark, really dark green, so you can use the shadow green or use, yes, one of the greens with a lot of pigment. Another thing that you can do is mix one green that you have with a little bit black. My favorite black watercolor is the Lunar Black from Daniel Smith again. But it's another ways to get this color dark, like with Payne's gray. You can mix it, or with an indigo, and make a dark green. The shapes and this part is on you. You can follow the same steps that I'm doing here, and paint the same shapes and textures that I'm doing in each tree. But I think this is the opportunity for you explore your creativity and the textures and the images that comes to your mind. Let your imagination fly and go ahead and paint in each tree the things that comes you at that moment. Like I love to paint hearts, I paint squares. I like to think about sometimes like in these 70s patterns, like these shapes, like the groovy shapes, or sometimes I think in the animal skins, the texture that I can find in the trees, in the leaves. Go ahead and let your mind and your imagination fly. This is a part that for me is very personal. So if you want to copy and do the same that I'm doing right now, go ahead. You are free to do it because you are learning, and sometimes you have to just follow until you find your own inspiration, right? So I'm going to finish here the textures that came. I told you I never plan what textures I'm going to paint. Just I start doing and come to my mind, and it's just with practice that you know how to do and figure out the painting. Some of the materials that I like to use for do these details is this Posca pen. In my last video, I told you about all the golds that I use for my paintings too, so you can go ahead and check that video too. For today, we're going to use just the Posca pen, watercolors, the dark watercolors to finish the details, and the golds that you can check, like I told you in my last video. For the last details, we're going to paint the stars in the sky with the Posca pen too. If you don't have a Posca pen around you, you can, or it's easy to find a Posca pen for you, you can use whitewash. The brand that I use is Winsor & Newton, but I really like the Posca pen because I have a lot of pigment. The ink is strong and give you a lot of contrast, so you sometimes with the whitewash and in the black on the dark backgrounds, you have to go ahead and do 2 or 3 times layers, so going to look more white, right? I really love how it looks the sky with these stars, and you can see that everything start getting very pretty, good looking painting, right? We finish here. Like I told you, I like to turn around the paper, and that's why I don't tape it, so it's easy for me to, and in the way that I paint, it's easy for me to do it in this way. Finish today with this forest. I hope you like. I hope this tutorial is useful for you. Please, like I told you always, if you have advice or ideas for me in my channel, you know that I'm new here, and I'm enjoyed to making this video for you guys, because I read your comments, and it's so beautiful to see that a lot of you, and you send me a lot of pictures too in my inbox in Instagram of you trying these paintings, or your kids trying the paintings. It's something really fills my heart with love, and more in this moment of my life that I'm having hard time. My mom passed away like 1 month ago, and I really find with you guys here a source of love and support that fills my heart with a lot of love. So thank you for your support, and I hope to see you soon with a new video. Maybe I'm going to do the greens color chart. It's idea that now I'm really happy to make the mixing color chart for to find greens. See you soon. Thank you. Bye.